Tomasson, and welcome to Client Corner. I'm so excited you're here to listen to my brain about what the process was like and how I decided to quilt the way I did for my client's quilt. Now this one's a little bit special in that the quilt that I quilted was for a dear friend of mine. Her father passed away shortly after he retired, and he bought all of these shirts as his work shirts because they bought a ranch. And he was a corporate lawyer, and so he wore white shirts, and he was like really like downtown business guy. And then he bought all of these shirts because they were now going to be ranchers, and that was their dream. And he died shortly after retirement. Oh, before we get in the video, please subscribe. There's a little bell that will let you know every time a new video comes out. And that way you don't miss any of my videos. I would love you to do that. So having some background knowledge of my client, of her father, of her mom, and their family, I knew their likes, I knew what kind of style they liked, and so I was able to incorporate that in the quilt. I also needed to have in mind the way that the quilt was pieced. So one of the issues with the quilt was that the border was made out of the backs of the ties. And so anytime you create a quilt with different textures, whenever you create a quilt with different fabrics, it can cause different problems because the way a silk would move compared to the way cotton would move, compared to the way even like there's lots of different kinds of cotton. There's cotton twill, there's more denim-y cotton, all of that can cause problems. And so there was some problems with how square the quilt was and to allow for the differences of that. So that was one consideration. So when I did my outside border, I did an asymmetrical kind of a random way to capture the quilt, and also because there was some unsquare bits in the quilt, that way I was able to incorporate, able to get a little bit more square in the quilting that I did. And so that was really helpful. And then in the border, because we had the bow tie border, we had the silk and the cotton. So there was some discrepancies there. And so that's why I was able to leave the cotton part open. And then I was able to quilt in the silk and then have kind of a loop that allowed for some movement within that part of the border not being completely square. And so I was able to kind of factor that in as well. And then for the shirts, and the shirts had all been interfaced, and so they were all very sturdy and all good on that part. And so with the shirts, because they're very modern family, they like a lot of modern clean lines, I was able to create new designs in every shirt pattern. So as you look at the pictures on this video, you will see that every single quilt was quilted uniquely. And one of my best tools for using that was my ruler. And so I created new designs, I echoed designs, and I created new spaces using the ruler. So that was really fun. And because each quilt was quilted uniquely, I decided to quilt the ties in a very traditional paisley design. And that really added a lot of cohesion to the entire quilt. One of the problems with quilting a quilt like this, it's a memory quilt, is that when you have an appliqué tie on a shirt, there's a lot of layers of fabric. And so not all of the ties had been dissected. So they were, not only were they the tie that has the fold on the side, but some of them had the tongues of the tie that was included. And so when you have the shirt that had the button flaps, even though the buttons were taken off, the button flaps were still there. And then we had the extra layers of the tie, and we had the backing, and I used 2 layers of batting because this is going to go on a wall. And so I really want to have beautiful texture. And there's no point in doing custom quilting if there's not a lot of beautiful texture, because that's like super wonderful. And so I had to unpick the tie while it was on the frame, and I had to cut open the backing of that tie, and then I was able to then applique it back on using my long arm. Now, if you have to do an applique of the tie back on or something else using your long arm, it's a really good idea to pin what you're appliquing on so that you don't bunch it. It doesn't get bunched and gathered. And so if you can pin that every like half an inch or so, then that tie will lay really nice and flat, and you can make sure that that's going to lay really nicely. So I was able to do that and then quilt the paisley design, which was really beautiful. Now you can see where the collar is. So they have the collar and the tie. That was very, very thick, and there was no way that I could quilt over that. And so when we look at our batting requirements, the batting requirements are usually 4 inches to 8 inches that need to be pinned down. So technically, a lot of quilts could just be tied and they would be fine. The batting is secured enough and it would be okay for wash and wear. However, this is a custom quilt and we really want it to be beautiful. So to have that open space where the collar and the tie were, it wasn't a big deal for it not to be quilted down. So you don't have to worry about that. So if you do have questions, if you can't quilt a certain part, always go back to your batting instructions of how much of a distance can happen without it being quilted. All right, so I really want to encourage you to look at all of the different shirts. I really had fun playing with the stripes and the plaids, and I recreated those in each one of the shirts. So, of all the shirts there, tell me which one is your favorite. I have a few of my favorites, and so I'll decide on one favorite, and then I'll look at another one. I'm like, well, so in the comments below, tell me what shirt is your favorite. So is it the plaid with the red and the green, or was it the stripes, the blue and pink and white stripes? I want to know which pattern you like the best. So leave your comment below. If you have quilts that you want quilted, or if you want advice on how to quilt the quilt, just reach out to me. I'd love to help you. If you want to improve your long arm quilting business, I have an amazing 6-week course that will help you to get to your dream business, create your dream business for yourself. Also, if there is something that's holding you back in your business and you want more help, I offer one-on-one coaching and I would love to help you. Again, thank you for showing up. My name is Dara Tomasson and I appreciate all of your comments and all of your love on my YouTube channel.